Hi, everybody. It's Dale Walsh, the Poetic Warrior from the Mental Health Warriors. And today I'm honored and very glad to have Tiffany Wehrner, a licensed mental health counselor and radio host of the of Clarity with Tiffany Wehrner, which is a nationally broadcast show. I'm very honored to have her, and we'll get started as soon as we have the intro. So don't go anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere.
Hello, hello. We want to be. Oh, there we go. I had a technical difficulty there, but for a second, but we're back, and today, as our special guest is Tiffany Wehrner, and as has become the tradition, I'm going to start off with a poem, which is called "New Daily Verse for True Love," and it goes like this: In truth, I never have and never will again spend my hours staring at a photograph of the innocent but not naive beauty you are, being the one to whose care it was fated I would in love be eternally sated. And so now I find myself in a precarious way thinking of you every moment, night and day, the absolute muse with whom I am entranced, who is both inspiration and the inspired focus of the blossoming of my heart like a rose. Sublime in the purity of your immaculate soul, maternal and nurturing while still passionate, as the years drift by like lazy clouds in the sky, pulling me from my former role as solitary man, enticing me to fantasy as only a beloved can. For you have given me a unique chance to understand the essence of total romance. It is in a manner I've sought my entire life of celibate solitude devoted to a vision that eclipses intensity of greatest love stories.
Hey, that's cool. You start every show off with a poem like that?
Like that.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. So, welcome, Tiffany. Let me just run down your little bio and give some highlights. You're a licensed mental health counselor and the founder of the Safety Harbor Behavioral Health and Counseling Center. And where is that in Tampa or where is that in Florida?
It's in Safety Harbor.
Okay.
Safety
I thought
Harbor Behavioral Health and Counseling Center.
Safety Harbor was like the
I
brand, but
wish. I'm stuck. I'm never gonna be able to relocate.
okay. And you have a very successful radio show, Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Wehrner, which airs every Thursday and Friday at 12 noon to 1 o'clock on the Tan Talk Radio Network, right?
Yeah, it's
And
called Moments of Clarity with Tiffany, not the last name, but Moments of Clarity with Tiffany, and it's Aired every Thursday and Friday, 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it is aired live not only on 8 a.m. FM radio stations, but also YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Twitter, and LinkedIn Live. And then it's broadcasted as a podcast to all the platforms like iHeartRadio and iTunes and Apple and Google and you know, but all of those as well.
And you recently had your 600th show, right?
I did on New Year's Eve. It was 600th, and we reached 7 years. I'm still going. I'm not going to stop.
Well, congratulations on that. That's
Thanks.
impressive. And I know that you showed me your trophy. So you were nominated for 3
Yeah.
People's Choice Awards.
Yeah, People's Choice Award
If I had to go,
2001,
I would.
Best Female Hosted Podcast. And then there's one for education and one for health category. I placed the final 10, but I'm going to try again and see if we win this year. But it was an honor just to be in the final 10, nominated for 11 awards last year and placed in the final 10 in 3. But I mean, it's all about ending the stigma on mental health. I love what you guys are doing with Mental Health Warriors, and the same thing. Change can only come when we stand together as one. Ending the stigma on mental health. It's starting to come to fruition.
Absolutely.
That 7 years ago when I first started the show, people didn't want to talk about mental health. They said they thought I was really putting myself out there to talk about it as well. And it was hard to get guests because people didn't want to tell their story and have other people judge them or whatever. But that's changing now. Not for quite everyone, but it's getting there. We've come a long way, but we have a long way to go.
Well, I thank you because you were the first major outlet who let me tell my story. And yeah, that started a friendship that hopefully will last a lifetime. But I really appreciate. Yeah, I wouldn't be here today if Adam Duvall hadn't seen the show and called me, and I became a mental health warrior.
Adam loves to take all my good guests. Hi, Adam. No, but that's great. I mean, you did a great job, Dale, on the show and talked about the real story behind what you've been through, your journey. And I mean, it resonated with myself as well as a lot of people, because when someone shares their story transparently, it really hits home to a lot of people, like that it's okay to not be okay and that you're not alone. And I love this: straight, sane, and sober. Do I have to be all 3 to be on the show?
No, I don't think anybody. I don't think anybody besides me has been, to tell you the truth.
Straight, sane, and sober.
Well,
I don't mean all 3. I don't. What's the definition of sane?
Well, that has an explanation. The straight means I'm not doing marijuana. The sane
Okay.
means
Well, straight then too. And then what? Sane means what?
And sane means I'm taking my medication. And sober means I'm not touching alcohol.
Okay.
So that's the origin of straight, sane, and sober.
Does the alcohol part have to be 24/7 every day, 360 days a week, or 365 days a week? Or just right now?
For me it is, but not for everybody else.
Totally kidding. All right.
So you also have a book that has been nominated for rewards called
There's a Light Within You That Never Goes Out, and it's a nonfiction documentary self-help book for adult survivors of sexual abuse and incest. And I had 5 clients at the time that we were trying to find curriculum to stay on my A game, and it wasn't a lot out there. So I spent 18 months writing a 90-page book that they helped me come up with curriculum that helped them heal from undeserved shame, undeserved guilt, and know that it was not their fault and things that they've been carrying for years that they shouldn't have been. And I saw a change in all of them. And so I didn't feel right charging for it. So I donated it to childabuse.com, and it was on, it still should be on the cover of like childabuse.com since 2017, January. It was supposed to be for a month, and it's still there.
Well, I love the title, and that's something we can go into today is this idea of shame and guilt, because I know that I had a lot of shame and guilt about my schizophrenia for a long time because, I felt I didn't feel I felt shame because I felt that my drug use had caused me to go schizophrenic, and ultimately, I realized that schizophrenia is probably one of the most democratic illnesses there is because it can strike anybody. But the need to or the shame to blame yourself for your mental illness, I think, is like a major cause of the stigma because, as I say, the stigma isn't just from within; it's from without. It's from within too.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and then also the judgment of others when they don't understand. So there's like the difference between ignorance, that people just don't know what mental health is, the definition of what thinking like schizophrenic, that doesn't mean you're dangerous or that completely crazy. Or I mean, most people hear schizophrenia and they think that's a serial killer or something like that. They don't understand what it really is. Or they say I'm having a bipolar moment, which is not what bipolar really means, just because you're having a mood swing or something. Just so many different things. OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, doesn't mean you're just clean. It's just so many details that are different. And the ignorant part is just not knowing better. But when you learn, then you can understand and relate. But then there's stupid. You can't fix stupid. Those are people I'm not willing to learn, right? So we can educate and end the stigma by helping educate people willing to learn the difference and understand that there's nothing to be ashamed of. Some, like for yourself, Dale, what you in your interview and the story that you told, I find you to be one of the most brave people, and you're definitely not stupid. You went to Dartmouth and Ivy League and everything, and it's a genetic thing. And you've lived with the challenge, and look at you, you're now hosting your own show. Just went through a bunch of stuff, but you've never given up, and you're a warrior, like the show says. You're a survivor.
Well, I was actually talking to a NAMI family to family group the other night, and just before that, I came up with five traits or characteristics that I feel are essential for recovery from mental illness, and they were humor, um, intellect, self awareness, uh, self awareness, creativity, and perseverance. So those are like the five things I came up with that like really that people have to really like do have in order to overcome a mental illness. And I was pretty happy with that. I thought it was pretty insightful.
Yeah, I'd like to take notes on that later. Is that you do have to have a sense of humor. You have to be persistent and persevere through it. And some mental, I hate the word illness, is used, but wellness or mental health is it's also not so scary for those don't know better at times. I think also like nobody wants to identify themselves as ill in anything, I think.
Well, I think self awareness, especially with agnosognosia, which is like the inability to understand that you're ill. Self awareness is like really like one of the fundamental foundations for recovery. And you know,
Yeah.
I basically had agnosognosia for 10 years before I had a life changing event. But basically, I didn't see anything wrong with saying I was God. You know, I mean, everybody would like freak out and say you can't be God and everything, but it was like, okay, well, why can't I? And my philosophy was I didn't think I was going to be permanently God. I just was like giving them 10 years to take a vacation because he hadn't been ever able to take a vacation. So I
If
feel
you were
like,
joking around, I wonder why they were like, you're unstable and we need to hospitalize you, rather than just thinking you were arrogant. I'm God, like grandiose thinking or whatever.
well, I think that's one of the misconceptions that people have. When you have a delusion, people, if you say you're God, then people think that you're like destructive, and you're going to like punish everybody. And that was a big part of my journey, was saying, getting out of that negative perception of like the judgmental and the wrathful God, like really becoming a person of love.
You're not the first person I've met that thought they were God. You're not. So that it wasn't you. It happened to you, but I've met other clients that had the same perception for a little while. I want to say delusion, but you know what I mean.
Right. But and the stigma is really self-imposed a lot of times, and but it's also true that the media is, every time there's a mass shooting or something, they say, well, he didn't have a history of mental illness, or he did have a history of mental illness, as if that's an explanation why a person would like do something like that, and it's very unfair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to completely. I mean, there's so many things that could have led to so many other things, severe abuse, childhood abuse, bullying, having just enough of something. I mean, the list goes on and on. Everyone's an individual case. We're all individual people. And it's not what happens to us or what we're given with life. It's how we handle our situation that defines our character. So we can play the victim role, or be vengeful or vindictive, or we can play survivor and figure out what our talents and weaknesses are, and reach our full potential in life by developing coping skills and strategies to improve our weaknesses, and constantly look for ways of improvement, rather than beating ourselves up, so to speak, because we feel like there's barriers. What you say?
So I'd like to ask you about your book a little bit, because not only do I love the title, but I love that, it's a very like difficult subject for people to address. And I mean, I don't know if I was the first schizophrenic you had on your show, but I got the feeling there weren't many, and I encounter that everywhere. And people want me to generalize about schizophrenics, and I'm very reluctant to do that, because as you say, every case is different. And, people say, well, what did you think of A Brilliant Mind? The movie about John Nash.
Right. It's a
And,
great movie.
and they used to ask me, how did you perceive that as a portrayal of schizophrenia? And I said, well, it was like a very astute movie about schizophrenia, but it wasn't my schizophrenia. I meant
I
really
know you
thinking,
didn't win a Nobel Prize like he did.
not yet.
Not yet. You're on your way. But well, not so much schizophrenia, but there's other things that can kind of similarly have similar symptoms, like bipolar, but with psychosis. So I've had some guests on the show that were diagnosed with bipolar with psychosis, but and thought they were best friends with the Pope and were calling the Vatican, and that could really see bugs crawling out of their skin while on an airplane. It's like their own type of fear factor, and to wonder when the episodes are going to come and not be able to plan Thanksgiving with their sister, or wonder, that kind of stuff. I commend people for living like that, and being able to figure out a way to do your best. And not only that, but pay it forward and tell the story, so we all understand what it's like, not just judge or assume. Assume, if you spell the word out, it makes it AIS of you and me.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, assuming is not the way to go. And also, there's been people with dissociative identity disorder, formerly known as multiple personality disorder. And I think you actually called in on one of those interviews and said they are very similar, like a lot of things that she was saying. So there's a lot of symptoms, regardless on the diagnosis. The diagnosis is just a label, but what I like from finding out the diagnosis is we can find out what the symptoms are and target those with either whatever coping skills, therapy, medication management if needed, things, and help somebody, like you said, stable, sane, like being able to live their lives without episodes of just, destruction.
Psychotic episodes.
Right. That are disturbing for them.
Right. Well, that brought up something in my head. Is as a therapist, as a psychotherapist, and everything, you must have like run across people who are in agnosia or in denial, where they don't want to take their medication, and they don't want to come to therapy, and I just as for my own personal use, as a coach, I like to how do you approach someone who refuses to take medication, but they obviously need it?
Well, I mean, the kind of therapy I do right now, so no one's ever not want to come to therapy because they've chosen to hire me. Like they come. It's not like I forced them to.
Right.
But I have worked in correctional facilities with level 10 maximum risk murderers, things like that. But therapy, they always wanted to come to the therapist. That was a way out of their cell, and and when someone doesn't want to do their medication, that's to each their own. I don't like to push medication on anyone, but sometimes it gets to the extreme where they can see that it's not helping, that they're not getting better. And it's because they're not doing the medication management in conjunction with the therapy. And so then it's kind of like, well, I can't push that on somebody, but would you rather be living with intrusive thoughts or anxiety or depression or anything like that, or to actually be happy? And the funny thing is when I have clients that are depressed and they start taking an antidepressant, they're like, Tiffany, I don't think I need to take it anymore. I feel great. It's because it's working. Stop taking it. You feel great because the medication's working. But they have to be willing. Like, there's a thing. Like, how many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? And the answer is one, but the light bulb has to want to change.
Right.
And so it's just up to each person. If they don't want to help themselves, and the therapist can't work harder than the client.
You bring
okay,
up
well, don't come to therapy and live your life the way you want. But if you want the help, then it's here. And you don't have to.
Bring up a very insightful point about people take medication and they start feeling better, and they say, I don't need the medication because I'm feeling better. And then this happened to me like probably 3 or 4 times. It's just like, and finally you get to a point where you say, I think I'm going to put 1 and 1 together to get 3, and say, well, I need the medication in order to be able to feel good all the time.
Yeah, it's just like, why stop something when it's working? But I mean, we can ignore doctors' recommendations with blood pressure medicine, but then you risk having a stroke or heart attack or aneurysm, things like that. Just if you broke your arm, would you fix it with a cast? And those are visible, physical, things that something's broken or whatever. And our brains are never broken. Just saying, it's just we need to heal. And if you can heal one way, brush it under the rug. But that rug, if we just ignore our problems, the mound under the rug, metaphorically, you're going to trip over it. It's going to resurface eventually. Same with the arm. We can break an arm and you don't have to put a cast on it, but it might heal, but it'll never work the same. It never look the same, things like that. But those are where people say, okay, well, that's a physical, people can actually see it. Mental health problems are internal, so we don't see them. And since it's invisible to others, others don't know to support or what to say or how to support and the right thing to do. But there's people come to counseling for average, marital issues, self-esteem and confidence building. It's not always a medication issue to go seek help, to just talk to someone and figure out if you're feeling like stuck in your job or you hate your job or your colleagues or stressed out at home or parenting issues or anything like that. That's still counseling. It's still mental health. Everyone has something. In the mental health diagnosis manual, DSM-5, there's even a phase of life problem diagnosis. Everyone has something, but those that feel like they don't, they're in denial, or they're actually like someone that is dangerous and does not come to my office, nor do I want them to.
Right. Well, you brought up a good point about the broken brain, because this is something I'm always telling people. But
you're
when I
telling
was
me
first,
that's why I said it.
I know, and the ironic thing is that they say that when a broken bone heals, it heals stronger than it was originally. So there, I take that to heart, and I say, well, my brain healed, and now it's stronger than ever.
Well, a stupid doctor once told you that your brain was broken, and I hate when that. Every time that comes up, I hate that because your brain's not broken. We never have a broken brain. We just have our brain, and we can strengthen it. That's why we go to school. That's why we learn. That's why we challenge our brain, to do self-improvement. That's why growing up, kids are like, why am I learning these things? I'm not going to have to use them as an adult. But strengthening the thinking, our cognition, the way we problem solve, all of that, just training our brain. And why would we let ourselves suffer with something that can be worked on, worked through, healed? And I don't use the word fixed on purpose either, because there's nothing to fix. It's something to learn coping skills and solutions for whatever we're going through.
Well, when my doctor told me that, it was back in the age where, this idea that recovery was impossible, basically. And once you were diagnosed with schizophrenia, it was like, okay, all you can hope to do is cope and stay out of the hospital out for the rest of your life. And when I was hospitalized 15 times, so and I'm very proud of the fact that I got out all 15 times.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like when you've stared, insanity, permanent insanity in the eye, and stared it down, then ultimately, anything else after that is pretty much cake.
I hope you had good insurance. 15 times. It's like a record.
Luckily, I did.
Well, that's good to know. Because eventually, at least never mind. But some people don't get the help they need because they don't have insurance and they don't think they can afford it. That's a shame too.
That is a major issue too, especially these days.
Yes.
But
you had asked me about my book before. It is a hard topic, and that for adult survivors of sexual abuse and incest. And there's a lot of people, and I even host a trauma group right now for abuse survivors. It's more common than people think. And a lot of people also feel ashamed to admit it because they think it's their fault, or they feel guilty, or just ashamed that it happened. And children don't know what to do, and it's not your fault. And when it's understood that they're not alone, and we work through the workbook that I have there, they start to realize that all of that they can let go of and forgive not only the predator but themselves. And it's big. Forgiveness is huge. It's not for the other person, it's for ourselves when something like that happens.
Do you find that there are people who the memories are so painful that they just bury them, and they're dealing with subconscious issues that nobody knows about because the issues are so deeply buried.
Yeah, and they're afraid to talk to somebody, and then they talk to me about my experience, and there's no judgment, and then it starts to get easier. They don't see themselves as a bad person or contaminated or damaged, or there's adjectives I've heard across the board, and it's the person that did it that's sick, not them. But uh, a child wouldn't know what to do. They think, and then of course they're brainwashed to think it's their fault, or if you tell, then they'll not believe you, or all these lies that people grooming them have given them, that kind of thing. But one of the persons in the book, she recently passed. She meant a lot to me, and I was at hospice for two of them actually. But one of them, she said, and especially when it was nominated for an Academy Award or Author Award, Academy Award, and then an Author Elite Award, she said that she was just beside herself, and she said, if all of that was a reason that God put me through all of that, then I finally found a reason that happened to me, is that my story is going to help others, and it gave her a purpose. So I don't like charging for it. So I don't market it much. It's just a resource I give away. So if anybody wants that, you can ask Dale, and I'll give you my PDF copy. And if anyone wants it, you can forward it to your audience.
Could you move your microphone a little closer, Tiffany? Because
I will give you a copy and you can forward it to your audience for free.
Okay. So another thing that we touched upon is the words used with diagnosis. Because I find that like more and more people are, instead of using mental illness, they use everything from chemically imbalanced to neurodivergent. I think that's one of the things, and uh, my own contribution is that is psychic affect. So
I just think it's like just silly. Okay, so I have my own therapist. I think every healthy adult should have one. I don't have to see them weekly or anything, but there's sometimes that being a therapist myself and not being able to talk about my day or my job or whatever gets overwhelming. So I have one that I saw and then I keep in touch with. And then I also have I've been diagnosed with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and anxiety, and I have blood pressure issues. I take medication for that because I don't want intrusive thoughts and anxiousness. Like, I have too much going on where I don't need to. Like, and I'm not ashamed to say that. So, like, I'm happier. I mean, I want a little anxiety so that I get my stuff done. So, there's been medications where we were trying them out that where I was all of a sudden stopped caring if the house was clean or whatever. I want a little anxiety so that I get motivated to get some stuff done at the same time. And then I can focus also. ADHD, I mean, I'm sitting there listening to people all day and I could easily be like squirrel, like and forget what I'm listening to, or someone say something about grocery store and I'm listening, looking right at you, but listening, thinking about what I need to get from the store, and no one deserves that. So I do what I can to be the best I can be, and I'm not ashamed to say that. I like it. People with attention deficit, ADHD, tend to be more risk takers, entrepreneurs, and look at me, like I have 5 jobs or something. Like it's just, so, but I get into the internet, or the social media. It's like I go to look up something or to look at one of your posts or whatever, and I'll just lose myself for 3 hours and forget what I was doing, that kind of thing. So I have to be careful, and I time management and make sure that I don't go into things that can distract me. Like I don't even have TikTok, and I hear about it, but I don't want it. Like I don't want to be sucked into something that will distract me for hours and take me from my priorities.
Right. So that takes a. Could you move your mic a little closer, Tiffany? Because you
These are
said
you having trouble hearing me?
it's going in and out a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. I'm right here with my mic.
Okay. That's better. I heard there's a lot of now you're frozen.
No, I just wasn't moving.
Oh,
No.
okay. I hear there's a
Wait,
lot of
wait.
solar flare activity, and it's wreaking havoc on all the tech. So maybe that's it. But uh, so I just I just admire your, you say I'm so courageous, but I think that's amazing that someone in your position as a therapist like will admit that you take medication, and that takes a lot of courage too, because a lot
Thanks.
of people would look at that and say, well, she can't be qualified as a therapist because she's taking
Why?
medication.
Makes me better. Therapists are people too. We just went to school for it. And like my parents died when I was young. And I found my mom on the floor, bathroom floor, and she never woke up. She had a brain aneurysm right when I had turned 18. I was getting ready for my first semester of college. And I stayed at home for the semester before I transferred to the University of Florida. So then I lost two grandmothers and my father, who was a Marine, is a Marine, but to Agent Orange, all while I was in college. And then, so I've been on my own since 18 and a lot of student loans and never victimized and just kept trying to figure out how to survive the entire time and still trying to figure out how to survive every day. It's a mindset. I think I don't know. I got mad when someone called me an orphan. I'm like, I'm not an orphan, but textbook definition, I guess I am. But I thought orphans were people that didn't know who their parents were. But whatever. I don't look at myself like that. I was happy to have known them for 18 to 20 years. And it's been 27 years or 25 or 20. I don't want to age myself,
I know. I
I just aged
understand.
myself. Dang you. No, but it's been a while and I had some work to do. And that's why, yeah, I mean, we all have our stuff. But, went through the post traumatic stress. I had to learn to forgive myself as well and how I reacted after that. Because, sudden loss of both your parents when you're a kid, people can react in several destructive ways. But I was raised well. I pulled myself out of that and kept on figuring it out. But I've never seen myself as a victim.
Well, that's very important, and that's one of the keys to ending the stigma is like getting people to stop thinking in victim mode, and just say, well, I mean, because I look at someone like you, I can't imagine losing my parents at that early age, and I was very fortunate. I mean, my parents basically made it till I was 60 years old, so and so, and that's one thing that's always hit me is people always say you're so courageous and you have such a great story and everything. It's like, but my doctor, my main doctor in my life used to say I suffer from psychotic bliss, and it's like I haven't gone through the tragedy, at least like feeling wise, to like people of something like losing my parents at a young age. I mean, my mother divorced and remarried when I was 10, and I moved from Abilene, Texas to New York City, and but my family was always there for me, and I had my sister, and then the judge and my mother had a child, my little sister Liz, and and I feel like I've been blessed rather than cursed, and one of my favorite therapists ever used to ask me, do you consider your intelligence a curse or a blessing? I'd say it's a curse to me because I see what's coming, but it's a blessing to everybody else because I can tell them to get out of the way.
It's all a mindset. That's what I like about you, Dale. Is just it defines our characters, how we react to our situation, and you just one foot in front of the other, right?
Well, is it a thousand mile journey begins with one step, right?
That's kind of what I was getting to. Yeah, but you have a better way of saying it. We all have our story, everyone has something. We don't need to compare ourselves to other people either. It's how we handle our own journey. Life is a
Right.
journey. They say Mark Twain. I like this quote. He said, Mark Twain says, the two most important days of your life is the day you were born and then the day you find out why. And in the middle, just figure it out. I kind of want to figure out if this is why I was born, but our paths lead us on whatever choices we make. And I like to think that this is not over, a far way to go. You're going to see me on television one day.
But I've heard that quote often, and I'm not sure if I figured out why if I figured out my why yet. But
I
it's
think
like,
it means the day we die is the day we find out why we were born. Like, then it all makes sense. Like, then. Unless we
I
can
never
figure it
thought
out
of
before
it.
then. I
I
don't
never
know.
thought of it that way. I always thought it was like something that you came to some conclusion before you died. But
I
that
like
theory.
that way too. I don't know. But the day we were born and the day we find out why, I don't know. I like it both ways. I'd like to say I figured out my purpose now because I've never had a different purpose besides helping people and doing psychology and trying to end the stigma of mental health. I found my calling. And this is all I'm going to do. The rest of my life, die trying. But
Well, I think my calling is to be a model of what schizophrenia can become at. If you stick with it and overcome yourself, and and just stay close. I mean, even though I thought I was God, I was always aware that there was like a greater power than me. So it's like I just I never doubted the existence of God, and in fact, that's one of the reasons I became God, is to prove that God exists. So uh, so that's just my own idiosyncratic thinking, but uh,
no,
you know
but
my
didn't Stephen Hawking try to figure that out too? Like the theory of everything and
yeah, but I feel that I've like sort of lived a parallel life. I mean, I came to Hackensack in 1976, and basically I've never left here. And the world has like gone on and developed and everything, and I basically just stayed in Hackensack, tending my own garden, so to speak. And I plan to break out soon, so the world better watch out.
watch out, world. Here comes Dale Wash.
But so do you ever feel overwhelmed by all the things that you do, Tiffany?
Yes. Uh well, like I caught COVID even after fully vaccinated and working from home. I don't know how I caught it. I was the most careful person, but in February, and I got it bad, like for 10 days, even though I think from isolating and working from home virtually and doing the radio show from home and barely going out but wearing a mask and all of that, then finally went out without a mask to go to my son's flag football game and was near some other moms and stuff that were sitting on the sideline outdoors. And then I caught it out of like being so careful for 2 years. It was weird, but it rocked me where I lost like motivation and my cognitive functioning was slower and just fatigue. And that got me overwhelmed because I couldn't keep up. So yeah, there's times where I feel overwhelmed, like when I feel like I can't keep up. But I'm getting better now, though. But when you have all these things in place and all these people counting on you, including family and kids and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden I wasn't able to function well, that was hard for me. I'm getting better now though, but it was so annoying. Dale, it's like in the very beginning, when sometimes you're thinking of a word but you can't remember what like I'm trying to say the word. I mean, smart, but that's not the word I'm thinking of, and then it comes to you later, or whatever. That was happening to me all the time. Like where I was like, later on, I was like, oh, I meant articulate. Like it was happening over and over and over and over again. Oh, that was probably the most frustrating part. But it attacked my back, where I've got back issues from a car accident, and it was painful. I mean, lasted a good 10 days, and then the aftermath, lack of motivation and lack of drive and all of that is slowly wearing off. And that's the opposite of me. I love everything I do. I love my job. I love being social and all that. And all I wanted to do is not any of it. You know what I mean? Like binge watch Netflix and play video games. I don't know, just stupid stuff that's just not my character.
Well, I understand that, and I think that I mean, I was always motivated to, my initials are DW, so I would always say I have to be doing something, even if it was just like sitting on the couch, meditating or something. So,
I thought it
but
was Dewey Duck.
oh yeah, what I will. Well, we have time. So, the Dewey Duck origin is my father's initials were Lou Lew. My initials were DW. My best friend's name is Hugh, and Hugh's father's name was Donald. So you get Huey, Dewey, Louie, and Donald, the Disney Ducks.
But now I like doing something too. You've changed that too. That's pretty cool. Okay.
And that brings up my second 7-year joke. I'm sure I've told this before, but I just told you how I'm a Disney duck, and I'm a Disney chipmunk. So, because of Chip and Dale.
Dale.
So what do you get when you cross the Disney chipmunks with the Disney ducks?
I don't know.
Me.
Well done. I do have my bell there.
Oh, you got the bell. Okay, great.
Anyway, I gotta get to a client soon, but thank you so much for having me on your show. This has been very nice. Nice catching up with you.
Well, I just wanted to thank all the people who have been commenting. Let's see if there are any questions or anything. So let me just go
thanks.
through.
Hi, Jason and Adam, Abby, and sometimes it says Facebook.
I think a lot of these are people who follow you, Tiffany, because they're all new to me. But I am J Designs. Jason has been a big supporter of both of us, and Adam, of course, and Abby Gadia. Is that a familiar name?
Abby Gadia is one of my best friends. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome, and I hope you all can come back at some other time and watch me interview people. And we have about 5 minutes left. So, do you have any final thoughts or wrap up thoughts that you'd like to share with us, Tiffany?
Sure. Tune in to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany every Thursday, Friday from 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time. You just Google Moments of Clarity with Tiffany on YouTube. Tune into Dale's show on the Mental Health Warriors every Tuesday at 3 p.m. on Mental Health Warriors TV. And on Clubhouse, my friend Jason does the dark side of entrepreneurship every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time on Clubhouse, and brand identity designer, and pretty much, and be kind to yourself and to a stranger, because you never know what they're going through. And if you feel like you need help, don't be afraid to ask for help, because it's okay to not be okay.
I think that's the most important point. Is it's okay to seek help rather than being afraid of it, and that comes from self-awareness and intellect and humor. And I feel very fortunate that I had to have the sense of humor that I do, because it got me through some very difficult times.
Oh, one more thing. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Like the show and subscribe. Hit subscribe button before you go. I'm giving you the plugs here. Any wrap up thoughts? Subscribe to Dale Walsh's and Adam's MH Warrior TV channel.
Well,
and while you're there, go to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany and hit subscribe there too.
Well, okay. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up today, but it's been a great honor having you. Thank you very much. And everybody, thank you for attending, and hope to see you again. And I think there is a calendar that you can look up at Mental Health Warriors on Facebook to find out the shows that the Mental Health Warriors are presenting. So thanks very much, and have a great day.
Thank you, Dale. This has been fun. Thank you.
It's been very fun, and let me see if I can get this right. So,
bye, everyone.